I'm Gary Hess, News Radio WRVA, the voice of Virginia.
Sun is up over central Virginia skies. Hanover moving and the city's alive. One more hour to own this town. WRVA never slowing down. Wake up with Rich and win the day. Or spend the whole day playing catch up anyway. Richmond's morning news keeps you running strong. 9 a.m. Let's roll all morning long.
Hey, good morning, everybody. It's 9:04 here on Richmond's Morning News. This is News Radio WRVA. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. So, I've talked so much about the semi-quincentennial for so long. I can't believe it's here. And I've told you the story of missing out on seeing the Freedom Train in the bicentennial and how heartbroken I was as a kid because I thought that's my one shot to ever see anything from the Smithsonian. I could never have an opportunity to go to the Smithsonian as an adult. I just never saw my world that big. And oh, did I carry that? I remember when I walked in the Smithsonian first time, I just broke down crying as an adult because I never thought I'd be able to see that because I thought I missed it out. I remember as a kid thinking, wow, how old will I be? What will I be like when 250 gets here? Where will I live? I never would have imagined I'd live in Richmond, Virginia when our country turns 250. I didn't know 250 seemed like such a long time ago for such a little kid. I couldn't fathom the world that big. So that's why it's been fun taking this journey with Dr. Murray Sabrin. He's joined us every Wednesday for the last, I don't know how many months or weeks. We've counted down to USA 250, and he's given us historical perspective of what the Founding Fathers wanted to achieve, what they wanted to do, what they were looking at, and what they faced. And I picked this up from Jonathan Turley, who you'll see on Fox News all the time, and he wrote a book, and he said, listen, in times of trouble, lean into the founding documents, lean into the wisdom of the Founding Fathers, and we'll be okay. And that's what we've done in this journey with Dr. Murray Sabrin, who's joining us right now on News Radio WRVA, and now we've come to that point that it's July 1st. It's July 1st, sir, and the semi-quincentennial is this weekend.
Well, happy 4th to you and your listeners and all the wonderful people that work with you at the radio station. And for me, I remember vividly 1976. So my wife and I were visiting her sister and her family in upstate New York. We were living in New York City at the time. And I remember watching the ships sail up the Hudson River for the great event that they had in New York City. And it was just a wonderful time to reflect. And this is right after Watergate. This is right after the oil crisis of 73, 74. And I was hoping at that time, I was a full-time graduate student at Rutgers University in New Jersey. And I said, hopefully we got the bad politics out of our system with Watergate and all the scandals associated with that. And lo and behold, we were pretty copacetic until the late 70s. And we got double-digit inflation and the Iranian hostage crisis, and then Reagan came in and said, we're going to do something great for America. We're going to go back to some fundamental principles. And unfortunately, spending kept on going up. There were tax cuts, but there were also tax increases during the 80s. And so I looked at this from a long-term perspective, and I just posted on Substack, Rich.
Well, I want to get to that. I want to get to that. Just a second. I want to set that up for you, if you don't mind, for just a second. But
Sure.
but we look back at what this country's been, where it's going, where we've been. I just want to reflect back for just a moment on some of the lessons that we learned over the last, I don't know how many Wednesdays on this journey, that this is a remarkable country, but this was a country that was founded by men, for men, and women is included. I'm saying that in a pejorative, or not a pejorative term, but for people. And we, the people, have been so important to stand up at the right time. There's moments of time where people look, all right, who's going to stand up and be counted? And that's really kind of how America got to be this great experiment.
Oh, there's no question about it. I mean, one of the great things about this country, and I have a book that I was given as a gift when I was teaching, it's entitled They Made America. Excuse me. And it's all about the great men and women entrepreneurs of this country. No politicians made America. It was the men and women entrepreneurs who saw the opportunity to invent, create, and provide services and goods that made our life much better, starting from electricity, to telephone, to where we are today, where you literally can call anybody in the world for no cost. That's an amazing phenomenon when you think about it, when years ago it would probably cost $100 a minute to speak to somebody on the other side of the world.
Oh, I remember getting the phone bills and saying, hey, don't call till after 6 o'clock. The rates will go down. Now I pick up my phone. I call anybody, anytime, anywhere. This is a remarkable country as we get ready to celebrate our semi-quincentennial. So right now, there's probably a 10-year-old riding in the car, just the same way I was 10 years old for the bicentennial. And now there's a 10-year-old, and he's wondering, wow, the semi-quincentennial, I wonder what the tricentennial is going to look like, because unfortunately, you and I aren't going to be here. I don't know, maybe medical technology, you and I will live to see USA 300. If this were a time capsule and you could talk to people 50 years from now and give them just some advice, some warning as they get ready to celebrate the tricentennial, what would you want them to know?
Well, I would want them to know that people right now are not pushing back against the socialists, because they're the ones that have the political momentum. And as I wrote in my Substack on Monday, that if current trends continue, we will see a democratic socialist president, I think, by mid-century. And then we will look more like Cuba than we will like the United States of America that the founders envisioned in 1776. That's the danger I foresee now, because if you look at social change in American history, it takes place over decades. For example, prohibition took 100 years to get the 18th Amendment in 1920-21, where alcohol was banned. The women's suffrage movement took, I think, a half a century. The income tax took only 20 years. Social Security and Medicare took 30, 40 years. So all these ideas that expand the power and scope of government take place when someone says, hey, we should have this in America. It gets shot down, it gets put aside, then it's resurrected a few years later, it gets debated, and then it gets enacted. And the reason it gets enacted is because there's usually a crisis. As the wonderful book by Robert Hicks points out, Crisis in Leviathan. Every time there's a crisis in American history, government always expands but never recedes after the crisis ends. And so here we are today, Rich, in 2026, where government is in every aspect of our lives, from housing to medical care to education to transportation. This is not what the founders envisioned. They did not see an America where the government would dictate so many rules and regulations and give us a tax code that is so complex, 70,000 pages for a tax code. When you go in and buy a cell phone, it's a one and done deal. Then you get a monthly bill. When you pay your utility bills, it's once a month and you're done. Well, when it comes to taxes, you have to go through hoops, except maybe the sales tax. You pay it at the point of sale and that's it. But the income tax is a way of social and economic control. And that's why I wrote a book in the mid-90s calling for the end of the income tax as well as other taxes, because as Thomas Jefferson said, the sum of good government is when people keep the fruits of their labor. That is, I think, a fundamental founder's principle of how this country should be governed.
I met Herman Cain when he was running for president, and I went to one of his rallies, and I went to an event that he was speaking at, and I got a chance to spend a couple of minutes with him. But I remember his big thing was he wanted us to be able to fill out our taxes on a postcard. He said, why do we have such a tax code that's so wild that I have to pay people thousands of dollars to prepare my taxes? Why can't I just do it on the back of a postcard? What would you think of that?
Well, here's the interesting factoid that nobody really talks about. I think I read recently that the Tax Foundation, which has been around for years, publishes data on the income tax. And I think 30 to 40%, or maybe more, of Americans do not pay an income tax. So if we live in a world of equality, that we're supposed to be all equal, that if it's no income tax is good for 30, 40% of the American people, why not 100% of the American people? Then we have to pay for what we want to consume. And this way, corporations will have to pay for all the infrastructure that they need to build a plant or a factory or whatever the case may be, or an office building. And everyone decides, well, I earn this amount of money. I want to spend it according to my preferences, my values, so I can provide for my family, help charities in my community, save and invest for my retirement, so we don't need Social Security and Medicare, and we can build out nonprofit health centers like I've helped create in New Jersey and support here in Florida, and we can provide no-cost health care to people with low incomes. That is, I think, the quintessential American view of the way the world should operate. We keep our money. We spend it the way we see. We save for our retirement. We help people in need in our community. As the old adage goes, give a person a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach a person to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. We need more fishermen in America, not people who are consuming fish all the time.
Wow, it's a lot to think about. And now I'm starting to think about with semi-quincentennial getting here. Now I'm starting to think about the tricentennial and how we get there as well. And you've opened up a lot of eyes, Dr. Murray. I'll tell you that right now. I just want to say thank you on behalf of all of us here at WRVA. Now, we're not going away. We'll still have you on the program as well. But this journey that you and I took together, talking about the founding documents, founding fathers, you gave me so much to look into, to research things I didn't know. I just want to say on behalf of all of us here and our audience, thank you so much. You're so kind with your time as we count down to our semi-quincentennial coming up this Saturday.
Well, thank you, Rich. This has been a passion of mine, I guess, since the 1970s. Actually, since 1959, when I raised my right hand in Lower Manhattan at the federal courthouse, and I became a U.S. citizen, and I read the Constitution, the Declaration, and I said, well, if we're going to have self-government, why is the government governing us so much? We need to govern ourselves and our local communities so we can provide for our families and help people in our community through Habitat for Humanity, food banks, and other institutions that help people in need, and then get them back on their feet so they can have a fruitful life and a productive life and pursue their happiness. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That should be our rallying cry for the next 50 years.
Well, I'm going to steal a line from Sean Hannity. I've never told anybody this before, but I'll steal this line from Sean. You're a great American. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rich. Have a great 4th of July, and hopefully we can continue this.
Happy Independence Day, sir. Dr. Murray Sabrin has been our guest. And again, we've taken this journey with him every Wednesday, leaning into our founding documents. An amazing, amazing educator. And I'm just humbled that he took time to join us every week here on WRVA. All right. Today's program brought to you in part by Michael Greer. You know, we're talking about the finances. How much money is going here? How much money is going there? You have your personal finances that you have to worry about on a daily basis. Now, what about your retirement finances? Listen, that's a really, really big thing to try to tackle by yourself. So that's where Michael Greer comes in. So let's say